Hey everybody, it's Doc. Welcome to the channel and welcome to my new 2025 Toyota RAV4 Hybrid Plug-in. That's the official name of it now. They dropped Prime. I don't know why, because I like the name Prime, but now it's the plug-in hybrid. Guess it's easier for everybody to figure out or something. I don't know. But as you may recall, I did a video not too long ago on my brother's 2023 RAV4 Prime. I loved it, and I loved it so much I decided to get my own. I was piling a bunch of miles on my Yukon Denali Ultimate, using lots of gas, running the warranty down, and I decided that maybe I should have another car for my commute, and this is the perfect car for my commute, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's do a little walk around before we talk about the details. So again, this is a 2025 Toyota RAV4 plug-in hybrid, and it's pretty well optioned. This is the blue color. It really changes in whatever light you see. Sometimes it's purple, sometimes it's black, sometimes it's actually blue. It's a cool color. I had hoped for red, but Patty went out with the blue, mostly because it was the only one we could get. And it's fairly well optioned. It's got the options I wanted. This is an XSE, so it's a top of the line model. It's got a few more options than the regular RAV4 plug-in hybrid. Most important change, or the comparison between the two for previous to this year, was the fact that there was different size onboard chargers, and it's my understanding that they both have the same higher output onboard charger now, which is pretty nice. I think it's 6.6 kilowatts or something like that. But this one has, like I said, some more cosmetic than anything else options. It's got a little applique along the fog lights, which is, makes it look sportier. It's got mud flaps. It's got some protectors on the doors and protectors along the side that supposedly will help you with door dings, which obviously it didn't, because just notice this right now. I got big scratches all along the side of the vehicle, and that's kind of be expected because this is our airport vehicle. This is a car that we're going to take to the airport and leave for days at a time, and I should have just expected it to be scratched by now. So there you go. Obviously my door protectors didn't work so great. But doing the walk around, this is the blue color. I had voted for red, but Patty went out on the blue, mostly because it was the only RAV4 we could get. Also, one other thing that is an option on this car is the blacked out appliques, or the emblems. They're pretty cool. I certainly prefer it that way. Funny thing is, they didn't bother to black out the PHEV emblem, so could have done that one too. And then of course the dealer put his label on there, kind of ruining the whole thing. I still have to take that off. So the special thing about this particular vehicle, which makes it absolutely perfect for me, is I have about a 60-mile commute every day, and this has about 40 to 42 miles of plug-in range on the battery. The battery is 18-ish kilowatts, and there's 15-ish kilowatts available, and they hold that last part for the hybrid system. It's a lithium battery, and overall the system works really well. And this will basically, depending on how you drive, obviously, is depending on how much actual range you'll get. So your experience may vary. But I've been getting, like I said, about 40 miles of range, and I use hardly any gas at all, which is really nice. But again, we'll take a little walk around the outside here. The wheels are 235 55 R19s with these fancy aluminum wheels, which they're all right. I'm not in love with them. I don't hate them. I would kind of prefer something sportier, maybe something a little more rally looking. that may change in time, but I really haven't done a lot of modifications to this vehicle. So let's take a look under the hood first. I kind of like that Toyota basically did not put a big plastic cover above everything and left everything exposed, because this is just a sea of wires and hoses and clamps. And I think that makes it probably easier for the mechanics. I'm not sure how this is to work on. So the gas engine in this is a 2.5 liter dynamic force inline 4, which makes about 177 horsepower, about 165 pounds of torque. This car has 2 electric motors. The front motor has an output of 179 horsepower with 199 foot-pounds of torque, and the rear motor makes 53 horsepower with about 89 foot-pounds of torque. There is no physical connection between the drivetrain in the front and the drivetrain in the back, which makes this, I think that's a little bit unusual for hybrids, for all-wheel drive hybrids. But if you take all of these together, 177 horsepower plus 179 horsepower plus 53 horsepower, you actually get 302 usable horsepower. With 302 horsepower and a 0 to 60 time in 5.5 seconds, basically this is the fastest RAV4 there ever was, and I think for a while it was actually the fastest Toyota in the lineup for a while. So back to the efficiency, essentially they're rating this at 94 mpge, which I have no idea how they calculate that, because literally, and I'll show you later, I can drive this thing for weeks and never put gas in it, and my display's telling me I'm getting somewhere between 67 and 75 miles to the gallon. I don't know how that works. Maybe one of you guys can explain that to me in the comments. The battery, if you put it into a standard 120 outlet, it will charge in about 12 hours. If you use a level 2 charger, it with the 2025s, with all of which have the bigger onboard charger, it will charge within about 2.5 to 3 hours. The older ones that had the non-XSE models that had the smaller charger, it was more like 4.5 hours with a 50 amp plug-in. Which brings up an interesting subject that I'll throw in. You know, I've done videos before on pleasant surprises and pet peeves, and there are a few pet peeves with this vehicle, primarily not because there's anything wrong with the vehicle, but it's based on price. And, you know, I paid $54,000 for this SUV, and this is something that irritates my brother. I probably would not notice it. Why does it have a prop rod instead of struts? That's pretty ridiculous, and I would agree with him that that's kind of baloney. The other thing that I think is kind of baloney is the fact that the plug-in that they give you is only good for a 110 outlet. You can't convert it, at least I haven't figured out how to the 50 amps. So you have to buy a whole new cable. What I ended up doing was I actually had my old Tesla cables that I kept around, the mobile cables, and so I just bought a adapter so I could adapt them to the plug-in for this vehicle. Save your old cables if you're buying more EVs. And we'll get to the likes of this vehicle. So, I mean, there is a lot of stuff I like with this vehicle. I like the fact that you can touch the door handle and most of the time it unlocks. I like the fact that it has a power door in the back. I like the fact that it came with this really little cool net, which also can convert, I think, up here, you can stretch it up and it can kind of act as kind of a barrier to the front. I really like, I don't know if I can do this with one hand or not, but I like the fact that, and I may not be able to do this with my stuff in here, but it's got a full-size spare under here. If I can lift it up, I don't think I'm going to be able to. There we go. Full-size spare. Well, not full-size spare, I should say. It's a big spare, and it's got all the tools required, which is pretty nice. There are things I really like, and One of the options that came with this vehicle was the all-weather mats, which are the plastic mats in the back. I like the fact that they go up to the seat backs, and I like the fact that when you flip them forward, there's a connector so you don't have stuff going down between the seats. Now, what I don't like is the fact that they're not very well connected. I'm going to have to come up with some sort of product or some sort of Velcro to get that to hook up better, but that's kind of pathetic for, you know, again, for a $50,000 vehicle, that kind of quality, you know, it should be there. Now, the storage area is really nice. It's well organized. I don't like the fact that in the back we have the little plug-in, but we don't have a 110 plug-in. And I wish that they gave you the option for that plug-in to be on all the time so I could power my ARB refrigerator. If you haven't heard me ramble on about ARB refrigerators, if you do anything where you go camping or you do long drives, you want cold drinks, you want to haul stuff without a cooler, ARB fridge is for you. They're not sponsoring this video, but they should, because I sell their product enough. The surfaces are hard, which is pretty much standard Toyota. And, you know, people complain about that, but the reality is this vehicle will probably look just about as good inside at 110,000 miles as it does right now. This has a JBL sound system. Am I impressed with it? Not particularly. It's just like any other average sound system, in my opinion. Let's take a look at the back seat. So the back seats are pretty nice. They're relatively roomy for the size of the vehicle. I think a 6-foot person could sit back here pretty easy. There's a little bit of limitation on the headroom because it comes down because of the sunroof, but I think you would probably still be okay if you're 6 foot. The all-weather mats are, again, really nice. The seating surfaces are leather and cloth, and they're really nice. I like the red pattern. It kind of reminds me of the piping and the colors in my GR Morizo. But again, and there are a few things that I have bought. This is a vehicle I have not really loaded up with aftermarket stuff because it really doesn't need it. But one of the things I love, and this is all super cheap stuff off Amazon. I will put some links in the comments if you guys want to buy it. I love these stupid nuts. And they're just, for a car that doesn't have a whole lot of usable little storage cubbies, this is the kind of nice thing that you want to have around. And I literally have it in 2/3 of the cars that I own. The ones I don't have the seats that it's appropriate for. But again, back seat's nice. Can't say anything good or bad about it because I never ride in it, but it looks okay to me. The one thing I do want to point out is we have our plugins in the bottom, and the passengers also get their own vents. Let's see, I never looked here. And you got cup holders. There you go. All the luxuries of life. Okay, looking in the front, and I'll have to move the car so you can see the display on the inside. We'll talk about that a little bit. I do love the fact that all the windows are one touch. I don't like the fact that, again, $50,000 car, and you've got electric seats, at least an electric driver's seat, and there's no seat memory. So if you're fairly tall, I'm 5'10", which is average height, and my wife is 5'3"-ish, there's a big difference. And if they weren't going to put in memory seats, I almost wish they would have put in just manual seats, because with manual seats I can just reach in, grab the bar, slide it back, it's all done. Whereas with this, I have to sit there and go, standing in the rain or whatever. So not cool. Toyota, it probably would have cost you $1 to add memory seats to this in the production. So why don't you think about that? And then looking down here, this is where Toyota chooses to put a lot of their buttons, and a weird place for the heated steering wheel button, a weird place for the odometer trip, and a weird place for the door. These are not handy places because you can't see them from the driver's seat. They could have put them somewhere else, but I'm totally okay with it because, you know, it's a RAV4 and that's where their standard buttons are. And these are almost exactly the same setup as my GR Corolla. So it's kind of nice, particularly for my wife who doesn't really like new stuff, that she can jump from this to the GR and back, and all of the information, both on the dash, both on the center console, and you know, weird little places the gauges like, or weird little places for switches like this, it's all where it needs to be. And it's consistent across the lineup at least. There's those seats. Seats are pretty comfortable. They're nice and roomy. They're good for a long ride, and I can't complain about them. They're pretty decent for the vehicle and its price point. You may be asking what's with the little tote, and I have enough cars that, and there's stuff I like to carry with me, whether it's paper towels. Sometimes I need door openers because some cars don't have the really nice integrated garage door openers. And then there's other stuff, you know, just like Tylenol wipes, stuff like that, that I don't really want to spread through every car because I like the cars to have a clean appearance. And since I commute, this little tote goes with me. They don't make this anymore. It's a tool tote, and I love it, and I wish I could replace it because it's starting to get worn down a little bit, and it's pretty awesome. So let's move this car so you can look at the inside. So we're in the driver's seat now, and this is a pretty standard Toyota steering wheel, which basically this allows you to control your display. I could probably do a video on that because people get a little bit confused about that. If you see what I'm talking about with all the buttons down here, they're really not visible. And I actually have the seat in the most rearward position, so I don't really love that. I love the heating steering wheel. Kind of the funny thing is, and this is probably a little subliminal education for people, is the top part is not heated. So if you want to have warm hands, you're kind of forced to go to the 10 and 2 position. It's a little bit warmer down here, but then we're back to cold. So subliminally, Toyota is telling you, keep your hands where they belong. And one of my big beefs with the GR Corolla was the fact that it had a really smooth radio button. And this is the exact radio button that I ordered out of a RAV4 to correct that. So it's nice that that's here. I like the rubberized surfaces. I like the mix of screen and buttons. I like the fact that there are physical buttons for the climate control and for the heated seats. This actually has a charger that works. And down here we have a USB-A, which in the Corolla is only USB-C, which is weird. And then we have a plug-in. So it would have been nice, again, for the few cents extra, they could have added a USB-A, USB-C combination there, but they didn't. I wonder if I might slip one right there. I kind of like the idea of having the USB-C because I'm trying to consolidate all of my cables. Nice cup holder, can't complain about it. And then going to the cubby, it's the center console cubby, it's okay. The glove compartment is standard, fairly worthless Toyota. And I mean, it's okay, but pretty much by the time you get done with your manuals, there's no room for anything in there. And like all Toyotas, it rattles. We'll be doing a fix on that later. There's a little cubby up here, which I haven't found a use for. And I do like the fact that in the doors, there are cup holders as well. So when you're done with one drink, you can stuff it in there while you put a fresh one in the center console until you find a garbage can. Now, I'll spend a little bit of time on the gauges. So I get there where there's no glare. So as you can see, we're fully charged. And it says, I have a 42-mile range. I've got about 2,000 miles on this vehicle. And you'll notice that I get 2.3 miles per kilowatt. Is that right? Yeah, 2.3 miles per kilowatt hour. And that just happens to be maybe slightly more efficient than my 2020 Model Y was. Pretty happy with that. So basically I've got all the efficiency of a Model Y Plus I have the capabilities of stopping at any gas station I want to and continuing my journey. So this vehicle, if you filled it up and you charged the electric, you would have somewhere around a 500-mile range. And this is one of my favorite games. So you look down here where it says on the gas gauge, where it says 431 miles. I filled this up like 2.5 weeks ago, and with my drive, with my commute, maybe I have 15 miles of gas-powered driving on my daily commute. And so I'm using just a little bit of gas and the rest is all electric, which, realistically, I did the math, and with as inexpensive as gas is now, which is about $3 a gallon, looking at my electricity, which my electricity is really cheap, and I set it to charge after midnight, so it's also pretty cheap. For the 10 kilowatts that I need to charge with, it ends up costing me about $2.50. So am I saving that much? No. But the thing I do love about this vehicle is I love the fact that it's dual fuel. So, the Armageddonist in me knows that if Armageddon came, I could at least have a choice between one fuel or the other and maybe get some distance with it. And you're saying, well, how are you going to charge electricity? Well, I've got solar power. That's another video you can watch. I invested in an EcoFlow and solar panels, and I actually took it out and tried to charge it with varying success. I need to upgrade some stuff, but I can charge this vehicle basically 9 miles on one charge from my EcoFlow, which is okay. It's better than nothing, and it's free energy if you needed it. I'm going to show you one more modification that I've done to the RAV4, and this is super cheap, and you guys will probably laugh. This is from Amazon. I have this on a fair amount of my other vehicles because I drive into the sun every morning, and I generally drive home into the sunset, and half the time I'm being blinded. So this little adapter basically allows you to drop a little screen, and it's a sad little screen. It's not very durable, but for 15 bucks, what do you expect? And it gives me just a little bit of benefit. I don't like wearing sunglasses, and this is an alternative, I guess. And it does have a little thing that comes out to check extra spots that don't get covered by the car. Toyota does not have that great of visors, in my opinion. And the other thing, another pet peeve, I don't know if I can show you this, but I don't love the sunroof. And the reason I don't love the sunroof, it functions great. It's a great sunroof. It's just kind of small. And let's see if I get that back. There we go. And I wish it was bigger, particularly with all the space that it takes. Or I would have been happy with maybe just a panoramic sunroof that doesn't open. I don't know what you call that, where it's just glass. Nonetheless, it's okay. It functions well. I'm just a little bit disappointed in the size for exactly the price of the car. Give you a quick glimpse of my EcoFlow, which I've been working on powering the car with, and I can get 9 miles. You guys should watch the video. I'll post it one of these days whenever I get around to finishing it. So overall, here is the RAV4. Fits nicely in the garage with my GR Corolla Morizo. And it's kind of funny. I enjoy driving them both, but sometimes I love the RAV4 more because it's just as fast and it's pretty comfy. But why wouldn't you want a GR Corolla Morizo? I have complaints, I have pet peeves that this car doesn't have all the amenities that I think a $50-ish thousand car should have. And that could be compared with the GR Corolla, not necessarily the Morizo because this is a track-oriented edition, but say the Circuit Edition or the Corolla GR Premium. these two have something in common, which is they are based on basically lower model cars, base model cars. And I think there's only so much you can do to make a base model something really fancy. And the thing I need to keep telling myself with the RAV4 is the fact that I'm not buying a luxury car here. It's much like the Tesla. I'm buying technology. This is more like buying an iPhone than it is buying a car. And so, and that's, kind of the price of the vehicle. So if you're deciding, which RAV4 you need, if you can buy a base RAV4, probably even an XSE for probably around $30,000. And you can have everything that I have here with maybe a little bit worse gas mileage and the fact that you don't have the hybrid system. And then you can bump yourself up to the hybrid, which is probably the best deal. It's not plug-in, but you get all the benefits of the hybrid with the great mileage, and it's like $5,000 more. I think the hybrids start at like $36,000, and that is a perfect medium or median solution probably for 99% of the people. And then, for people like me, where I have this commute where a 40-mile range works absolutely perfectly, which it probably works perfectly for most people because the majority of the United States has less than probably a 10-mile commute anyways, and they travel less than 20 miles in their car every day. So that kind of makes sense. But, there's a $10,000 premium to add the plug-in option to this. So again, buying technology as opposed to getting a really good value. And so is this a great value? Will I ever make my $10,000 back? No, I probably won't. And one of the things I did want to show you, so on the side here, this is the gas side, which has a hatch button on the inside. And the back on this side, this is where our plug-in is. And normally this is not painted yellow. I paint it yellow because every time I plug in the car, I'd leave it drop down there, and then I would unplug it, go to work, and then I'd find that dangling on the outside when I got to work. I didn't really realize that there was a little hook right here for it. And then this is, pretty much the standard plug-in. I can't remember what they're called, but Toyota has not gone to the NACS yet, the Tesla NACS, which I'm assuming they will. I don't know why they haven't yet. So we're using that. Here's my plug-in with my 50 amp dryer plug, and then there's the adapter that plugs it in so I get my juice in a timely fashion. Again, if I used the 110 outlet, it would be about 12 hours, and that's not cool. One more thing I forgot to mention, and I really like this feature. They put a lot of thought into this. At nighttime, there's a little light. You can see it. A little light there. When you plug it in, the light goes out. So that way, you can see where you're plugging in, which is kind of cool. I don't love the fact that when it rains or I go through the car wash, it gets totally wet in here, which is ridiculous. And there have been complaints that this flap is rather cheap. I think it's okay. I don't have a problem with it. And then, like I said, plug everything back in. And when you lock the car, that hatch locks as well, which is pretty nice. So someone was thinking, thank you, Toyota. So that's the end of the video. I appreciate you guys sticking with me this long and seeing all the cool stuff I like about my commuter car, my RAV4 hybrid plug-in. I guess that's most of the title there. But I love it. It's been a good vehicle. I think it's going to be a great vehicle. I could talk all day long about our dealer experience. If you guys are curious about that, put a request in the comments, and I'll tell you how crappy and good at the same time you can have a dealer experience. I'll give you a clue though. It was so bad that I actually went to another dealer to get my warranty, right? Not to have my warranty work done, to buy an extended warranty, and that was probably the biggest mod that I put on this vehicle. Anyways, you guys want to talk about that? Throw a comment in the comment section, and I will yabber on endlessly and probably bore you. So on that note, we're done. You guys have a great day. We'll see you out there.